Medieval people lived in a world of castles, cathedrals, and kingdoms locked in battle, but beyond the wars and work of survival, they also made time for leisure. What did amusement look like for a peasant on a rural estate or a noblewoman in a royal court? Did knights seek thrills in real combat when not at war, or were there other ways to display their courage? Were celebrations filled with music, dancing, and communal joy, or were they more solemn affairs tied to religion and tradition? The daily lives of medieval men and women are remembered for hardship, but could their entertainments tell a different story? The medieval period spanned roughly from the 5th century to the 15th century, stretching across Europe in diverse landscapes of villages, towns, and courts. It was an era shaped by the collapse of the Western Roman Empire, the rise of feudalism, and the growth of kingdoms and city-states. For many, survival depended on agriculture, and yet throughout this period, festivals, games, competitions, and storytelling were constant features of life. Leisure was not evenly distributed, however. The rich and the poor found very different ways to enjoy themselves, though both placed importance on community and custom. Festivals provided some of the most anticipated opportunities for fun in the medieval calendar. Religious feast days, marking saints or holy occasions, often became the centerpiece of public celebration. Villagers gathered for processions, bonfires, and communal meals that broke the monotony of agricultural labor. Carnival days before Lent could turn into raucous affairs, where costumes, music, and satire created a form of licensed disorder. Urban records suggest that markets and fairs drew performers, animal shows, and games into public squares. These moments offered both entertainment and relief from rigid daily routines. Games and sports played an active role in medieval amusement. Ball games, similar to what we might recognize as early forms of football, were played in fields and even down village streets. These matches could involve dozens of participants at once and were often rough, with few rules and no clear playing boundaries. Archery was not only a pastime, but also cultivated as a necessary skill for defense. In some regions, laws required men to practice it on Sundays. Evidence also tells us of dice and board games, such as a version of chess or Nine Men's Morris, which developed from Roman origins and offered a quieter form of recreation. For the nobility, tournaments stood out as a spectacular form of fun that also reinforced social order. Knights competed in jousts, charging each other with lances on horseback in displays that balanced danger and prestige. The melee, a group combat event, resembled a mock battle and allowed knights to demonstrate prowess in front of large crowds. These tournaments were not only martial contests, but theatrical performances of skill, honor, and wealth. The aristocracy regarded them as an essential part of courtly culture, while common people often gathered as spectators, attracted to the spectacle of armor-clad warriors clashing in controlled combat. Music and dance formed central parts of medieval leisure for both peasants and nobles. Troubadours and minstrels traveled between courts, performing songs of chivalry, romance, and heroic deeds. In towns and villages, more modest musicians brought entertainment to inns and local gatherings. Court records describe elaborate dances, often performed in patterns or circles, while folk dances flourished in rural life, accompanied by simple instruments like pipes and drums. Music marked important events such as weddings, harvest celebrations, and seasonal festivals, embedding rhythm and song into the communal identity of the medieval world. Storytelling allowed medieval people to share moral lessons, humor, and adventure. Oral traditions thrived among commoners, with tales of clever tricksters, legendary heroes, and cautionary parables passed from one generation to another. For the literate elite, romances and epic poems served as a major source of leisure reading and performance. The tales of King Arthur, Charlemagne, or the knightly codes of honor were recited in great halls, captivating both listeners and readers. Monks and clerics preserved much of this literature, but laypeople also consumed stories that reflected both escapism and cultural values. Narrative entertainment was universal, bridging different classes through laughter and wonder. Animal sports were another common medieval amusement, though they could be brutal by modern standards. Bear baiting and cockfighting attracted large audiences and bets, while falconry became a distinctly aristocratic pursuit. Falconry manuals and artwork demonstrate not only the leisure aspect, but also the prestige associated with training and keeping birds of prey. Hunting with hounds or hawks held ceremonial importance among lords and royalty, serving as both recreation and a display of control over natural landscapes. Although these activities reflected hierarchy, the collective thrill of animal contests drew both high and low audiences in different forms. Children in the medieval world developed their own forms of amusement that reflected elements of adult society. Evidence from manuscripts and archaeological finds points to carved wooden dolls, hobby horses, and miniature weapons of play. Boys often mimicked soldiers and knights in their games, while girls played with objects echoing domestic life, though these boundaries were not absolute. Simple toys like spinning tops, balls made of leather or cloth, and knucklebones provided entertainment across social classes. Even though daily responsibilities could come early, children carved out spaces for joy through games and imitation. Another essential part of medieval leisure took place in the tavern or the alehouse. Drinking establishments were not only places for ale and mead, but served as centers of gossip, games, and community interaction. Dice throwing and card-like games, though sometimes frowned upon by authorities, were played in these spaces. Traveling entertainers often used taverns as venues, and for many townsfolk, these places offered their most accessible and regular leisure environment. Despite prohibitions by clerics who warned against drunkenness and gambling, the popularity of taverns underscored how central these social spaces were to medieval life. Religious plays represented another popular medieval form of entertainment that combined devotion with spectacle. Mystery plays, morality plays, and miracle plays dramatized biblical stories or the lives of saints, often staged in marketplaces or near churches. Guilds in many towns sponsored the productions, bringing entire communities together. These performances educated audiences about Christian doctrine, while also drawing crowds with elaborate costumes and staging. While rooted in faith, they also acted as communal events of great excitement, blurring the boundary between spiritual duty and popular entertainment. Medieval leisure, though shaped by labor, faith, and hierarchy, reveals a deep human desire for joy and connection. From the rough play of village games to the grandeur of nightly tournaments, from humble storytelling by the hearth to music echoing through a banquet hall, entertainment reflected the diverse fabric of society. Today, historians believe that these amusements offered more than momentary distraction. They strengthened communities, affirmed values, and helped people endure the challenges of their world. What survives in record and tradition tells us not only what medieval people did for fun, but also how universal the pursuit of recreation has always been.